Members of council, could you take your seats, please? Good morning, members of council and staff. I will call this Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, February 11th to order. Mr. Clerk, if you could do a roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronic roll call is starting now. I know Councilor Wu is here as well.
Okay. So, Mr. Clerk, we have quorum. Members of council, I do have some sad news to start out this morning. Elliot Villeneuve, a dedicated paramedic serving the Durham region, passed away, leaving a profound impact on the community served and the colleagues who he worked along with him, who relied on his courage and care in times of emergency. Elliot devoted his life to saving others, often placing himself in challenging and high-pressure situations to ensure the safety and well-being of those in need. Colleagues described him as dependable, compassionate, and deeply committed to the work, qualities that made him a trusted figure in emergency medical services. Also, we had a loss. We lost a member of DRPS, Stephen Grote. Stephen, his family was the center of his world, and his love and guidance and steady presence will forever shape their lives. His sons described him as their hero and the person they most hoped to grow up to be. Stephen was a proud serving member of Durham Regional Police Services, dedicating nearly 27 years to protecting and serving his community. He served with pride, dignity, and a strong sense of morality, earning the respect of his colleagues and the trust of his community. His integrity defined both his career and his character. And finally, if you could keep in your thoughts the community in BC of Timber Ridge for the incident that happened yesterday in a very small community of 2,400 people. Members of council, if you would you please stand and join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Mr. Clerk, there are no statutory public meetings. Oh, sorry, declarations of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we will move on. There are no statutory public meetings. We do have a presentation. Allison Burgess, Executive Director of Communications and Engagement, on the Government Relations Update 2025 and 2026 priorities. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Henry and members of Regional Council. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this morning to talk about our Government Relations Update. We appreciate the opportunity. So I'm Allison Burgess, and I lead our Communications and Engagement Division, which is the one that oversees our government relations work. So my presentation today will cover some of our government relations processes. I'll pull a few examples out of the report related to our 2025 achievements, and I'll also highlight our priorities for the year ahead. Before I begin, though, I do want to introduce and name the two staff standing behind me. They're really incredible. Amanda Chambers, the Manager of Government Relations, and Amanda Bongard, Policy Advisor for Government Relations. These two are truly the ones who do the bulk of the work, and a lot of the successes here today are due to their efforts. So the Government Relations team works across all departments to understand issues in detail. Where emerging government policy or funding decisions may be coming forward, and how do we get Durham front and center early on. While technical staff and staff in departments regularly engage with their counterparts in ministries, our team is brought in when an issue requires coordinated advocacy to ensure that council priorities are positioned early and make sure that they're in front of provincial and federal decision makers. We coordinate consistent messaging across departments and elected officials by sharing information through a centralized SharePoint site. There's just a screenshot of that internal site there on the screen for you. But this also includes a monthly CAO briefing note to Council, which comes to you at the end of the month, and outlines any government relations activities, key messages, or engagement that's underway. So this approach ensures that our senior leadership and our Council are well informed and aligned. The team also builds and maintains strong relationships with government partners. So this includes monthly meetings with our constituency office staff, regular engagement with Durham's 7 MPs and MPPs alongside the chair, and ongoing relationships with ministry and minister's office staff. External support is also provided through our lobbyist strategy corps. It's used where appropriate and helps us build connections with officials that we may not otherwise have access to. Our ultimate goal is to advance Council-approved priorities by securing funding and policy support that meets the needs of Durham residents. There were many changes in 2025 that led to rapid shifts in our advocacy approach. Provincial and federal elections held at both levels, and that led to new relationships, new elected representation, and new mandates. There was also global economic changes, the introduction of tariffs, the housing and the affordability crisis. So then we had to realign our messaging to focus on support for local businesses, general affordability measures, and also talking about voluntary DC reductions and others. What did we work on in 2025? Well, we advanced 15 different priorities that are outlined in the report. And I'm just going to share the top 5 here that we put forward last year in our Council presentation. First was increasing support for homelessness, mental health, and addictions. Securing funding for Phase 2 of Dundas Street East. Advancing the Lakeshore GO extension to Bowmanville. Advancing long-term sustainability, fiscal sustainability for municipalities. And securing investments in community housing, transition, and renewal. To address these priorities, we look for opportunities to share regional messaging in a variety of ways with both upper levels of government. So this can be through letters, through correspondence, or meetings. And in 2025, we held 30 meetings with elected officials, 16 with federal representatives and 14 with provincial representatives. In addition, we leverage every event we can to ensure that Durham is highlighted front and center. So in 2025, we held our first official Durham Advocacy Day, where mayors and committee chairs joined the regional chair at Queen's Park for meetings with the Premier and several ministers. We attended delegations at AMO, the AMO conference. And while also at FCM, Elaine and I visited several deputy ministers since we were in Ottawa anyway to continue to build those relationships. And then finally, we held our first federal advocacy day this past fall, and it was held virtually. I'm just going to pick a few achievements from the report to highlight to you today. So first is the $40 million awarded to 1635 Dundas Street East, Phase 2. We were awarded $48 million for housing, temporary housing for asylum seekers, $6.3 million towards a heart hub focused on mental health and addiction support, and $20 million for work down on Bowmanville Avenue, which is just an example of an infrastructure project that we advocated for funding for support. So what does that mean for 2026? We want to build off this momentum. I want to secure investment in affordable housing, and that includes community, permanent, and transitional housing. We are working closely with CMHC and officials at the new program, Build Canada Homes, BCH. We want to strengthen supports for vulnerable populations, including those experiencing homelessness, mental health, and/or addictions. That includes wraparound supports, federal funding top-ups, and a continued push for the mental health emergency room at Lakeridge Health that Mayor Carter has been championing. We want to advance the GO Lakeshore East extension to Bowmanville. Now that Metrolinx has officially broken ground on the Simcoe Street Bridge, we have assurance this project's moving forward. We will focus on advancing the transit station charge work to ensure the stations are in place on opening day. Fourth one is advancing long-term financial sustainability, including adequate capital investment for growth. This includes infrastructure funding and continued discussions around capital growth and DCs. And we want to secure funding for community safety and well-being initiatives. This includes the outcomes that we've seen from the Building Safer Community Fund and the need to continue that work, as well as we've heard you in Council's priority on intimate partner violence and gender-based violence and want to move that forward. So just to wrap up this presentation, advocacy drives funding and policy wins for Regional Council. We have positioned Durham as a partner of choice with both the provincial and the federal government. And through targeted, intentional effort, we have strengthened our relationships at the federal level. And we also continue to strengthen those relationships at the provincial level and provide input into provincial priorities. That's all I'll share today, but I'm happy to take your questions and comments. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Allison. That was a nice, sharp, clean, and crisp presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wonder, is it possible to go back to the slide that lists, I think, 2026 priorities, please. That's it. And if we look at number 1, number 2, and number 5, they would seem to be involved with not only affordable housing, but some transitional housing, vulnerable populations, community safety and well-being initiatives. And if we go to the previous slide, $6.3 million for the Heart Hub. I'm wondering if you're able to give us any kind of an update as to when that facility can begin, can open, so that it can help to address numbers 1, 2, and 5, please.
Great question. And I think you've also identified that many of these priorities are long-term priorities and they require multiple years of advocacy with specific asks. So thank you for that. Respect to the Heart Hub application is actually funding coming from the Ministry of Health. And so the lead applicant for Durham Region was the Durham Community Health Center. And so the Durham Region supported from a social services perspective and will be providing support through supportive housing as part of that application. That supportive housing is currently being provided. They're providing their services through a mobile support currently, and they will be using space at 1635 when that construction is complete.
So this is all in reference to 1635 and not the second location in Oshawa?
So yes, I actually don't have an update on the second location in Oshawa, unfortunately, to provide you.
Pity, I was hoping that's what
I'm
the
sorry.
6.3 million was.
That 6.3 million refers to the one the region was directly involved in. So we were a co-applicant and supported DCHC's application. We weren't an official co-applicant, although we supported and provided a letter of support for the second one in Oshawa. And so I don't have those details because we're not as integrated into the project team.
Well, congratulations on your work for the one at 1635, and I'll look forward to your updates on the other when available. Thank you. Thank you,
Sounds
Chair.
good. Thank you.
Mayor Foster.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Allison, thank you. I noted on that you're speaking to the relationship with the federal government. Some of us will recall when there was no relationship or dialogue with the federal government. So for the work, I thank you. On a couple of issues, Clarington, I sometimes have difficulty getting meetings, engaging with federal or provincial counterparts. Is there a way for the local municipalities to perhaps work in tandem and to lever off of the Strategy Corp? I'll state this because it's true. On another file, it was brutally apparent that the consultants had better access to high-level staff and ministers than the mayor did, which is a little scary. So can the lower tiers lever off of what you are doing?
So there are restrictions. I will share. Strategy Corps has to register as a lobbyist on behalf of the region of Durham with specific ministries. So with respect to that lobbying, if there are joint initiatives, I think that would fall within scope. But if there's a specific Clarington initiative, or it's with a ministry that they haven't registered as a lobbyist for the region, then they're unable to under our current contract. However, we do meet with local municipal GR staff on a fairly regular basis. Happy to have further conversations to see where that scope aligns.
So it may be worthwhile, and again, if something specific to Clarington, and typically it's not one municipality, it's more broadly in Durham, but if we need to help carrying the water, including financially, that might make more sense on that. Do we get involved? We're looking at everyone is talking about what governance changes may look like. We have all been struggling over the last number of years with a huge number of changes to the Planning Act. So you've got some discrete items here, and congrats and thank you for the progress that you've made on that. But on the lobbying side, beyond the AMO, the FCM, what we're trying to do we try to get our foot in the door so that we're heard, or at least have a heads up on things coming down the road? And again, most pertinent, and I feel so sorry for the clerks trying to figure out what elections may or may not look like shortly. But how does that fit in?
Sure. So I will share with you, I think you're talking about the proposed government changes. There's been some governance changes. There's rumors sort of going around councils and around appointed versus elected chairs. Certainly, this regional council has a position around elected chairs and supporting elections. And so we have advocated for that position. However, we don't have an official position on sizes of regional councils or composition. And so we haven't entered into that. I think one of the directions from this council was to set up a meeting to have a direct discussion about it with the minister, and I know the chair is handling that directly.
Okay, and I wonder if decisions have already been made. I'm not privy to any of them, but that's fine. The last, and I'm not going to surprise you at all, in terms of lobbying activities and speaking to, so on the nuclear file, and we're going to deal with an excellent report on that shortly, but some focus perhaps on that file. So this has been identified as one of 5 nation-building projects. It is unique. Has massive ramifications across Durham region. At a meeting yesterday, I was joined at that meeting where we're looking at the Fusion Research Center, and I don't know if we can be helping the university here move that ahead, but is there room in the strategy to promote Durham Region's interests on that file?
Absolutely. We'll have a follow-up conversation about that. I know, and I was just looking through our report, priority 13 is related to the property tax assessment challenges. I think what you're talking about is more economic development focused, and certainly we can provide support on that. Maybe a follow-up meeting would be required to get more information.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it is ECDEV focused, and we are treading gently on the property tax issue, but for my colleagues, millions and millions of dollars annually are leaving Durham region. That, in my opinion, certainly in Mayor Ash's opinion, in the chair's opinion, should not be leaving Durham region. So, and for your work on that, thank you. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Mayor Carter.
First of all, good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to ask, I know that Mayor Roy was in the newspaper just recently about legislative changes in regards to revenue. Is that an area of focus that we should be looking at? I mean, local municipalities need new revenue tools or new legislation to allow us to be able to get the kind of revenue that's necessary. And I'm wondering, should that be part of our strategy, or is it already part of our strategy?
Great question. So that is, and that because some of the issues are broader. Those often the ones that I talk about are very specific Durham issues, and that's where we dig in into all the details. But what you're talking about is sort of new municipal funding and a new framework, and that is something we work closely with our partners at AMO, also closely with Marco, the mayors and regional chairs of Ontario. And so those are strong mandates from those groups to continue that advocacy. We provide our data to those groups to make sure that they're well aware of Durham's position, and we do support and echo those messages at times like AMO.
So I had a great meeting with the CAO and the Commissioner of Finance yesterday. Is there an opportunity for us to advocate specifically for Durham region as that legislative changes are necessary in regards to fiscal viability of the region itself? And I think we could make the argument. I think Mayor Roy was very clear in regards to her position. And I'm just wondering, is there a place for us to advocate just for Durham region and bring some ideas forward in regards to what that may look like? I mean, I understand we work with the other big organizations, but the reality being is sometimes we get lost in the shuffle. And I'm just wondering if you'd take that under consideration,
Absolutely.
if there's any value to that or not.
Absolutely. I'll follow up with the CAO on your conversation yesterday, and we can report back. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Roy.
Thank you very much, and I'm going to continue on that conversation that Mayor Carter just brought up. And the motion that was brought forward on Monday night, while it did stem and originate through conversations, Marco, AMO, Roma, OBCM, the bigger organizations, when I originally had put together my motion, it was concentrating on Whitby and a Whitby focus and what the implications and the rollout and the follow-up from residents is that it is specifically that, what does it look like for us within our community? What does it look like for us within the region of Durham? And I do plan on bringing it here as well too, but I would like to transition and change it to a Durham focus as to what does that actually look like. We had the conversation here within the budget with the breakdown and even with the amount that went towards policing and the amount that outside with the core services that we will identify. And like even within our own core services review that we have going on within the town of Whitby, on the Municipal Act, if you take a look at what our core services are, essentially under the Municipal Act within the municipality, there's 170 items that are core services.
Yeah.
And within those 170 items, there is approximately 65 that's over and above. And how did we get to there? Well, the answer is legislative changes, also with the downloading to us, and even decisions around the council table that does end up moving items forward. But if we were to, within, and this is what Mayor Carter also has identified, if we could roll that all out into a simple information communication and even a graphic, because I find
Yeah.
that with the graphics, it's a great illustration of here's what we should be paying for, this is what we're responsible for, this is what we're not getting supported for. And it's not asking for more money, but it's also not putting blame. And I think that's one of the things, we need to be solution-based, not one that's pointing fingers, because in order to get this fixed, we have to identify how it needs to be fixed. So, I know it wasn't a question, but it's just, it is a basis as to like the conversation. And I know we put these motions forward, but however, there needs to be action and we need to be putting solutions forward. We can ask to be at the table before legislative changes do take place, but we already can preempt it into specifically talk about like what we need to do. We can say it's health and social services. We can say that it is like our infrastructure needs, and we know what we need within our infrastructure. We're hearing it from our development community. We're hearing it, and we're lobbying, and we were together with MP Turnbull during their budget presentation and asking for infrastructure supports. But like, it needs to be real, and it needs to be better understood. And I would tell you that I've been getting a lot of responses from residents. How can we help you?
I appreciate that, and I'll work with our Commissioner of Finance to pull some of that together on our side. Thank you.
Councillor McCaughey?
Thank you. Continuing on a theme, I know that we put forward 2 years ago the motion here as a result of AMO requesting for the province to participate in the prosperity and economic review because there was an identified $4 billion gap in the province. So I guess my question is, we've now gone through 2 budget cycles. And, you know, we've gone through the budget cycle here, which was extraordinarily painful. We all recognize why the pressures are coming at us. And is there a way to now say, 2 years later, this is what we identified, and now we're watching it play out, and we're watching it play out on property taxes and on the backs of our property taxpayers. And that is, we've already said it was coming, and now the proof is here. So how can we simplify it, I guess, is the question. Because as Mayor Roy said, our residents are asking how they can help now because they recognize how struggled we were during that whole budget process. So what is it that we can do to, you know, whether it's write it in crayon or, you know, make it really, really simplified so that we can make sure that the community is aware of that gap and it's playing out, and then expressing that through, you know, the organizations, through AMO, through all of the organizations, but also directly to the province from Durham.
It's hard for me to answer that question directly without the information. I think I do need to go back and get the information from our side to know how to simplify that story. But I think I hear your request for simplified messaging, both to the province as well to you as council, to be able to share as you wish. Is that fair?
I think it's fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can take that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miriam Pietri.
Through you, Chair. Good morning, Director, to you and your team, Amanda and Amanda. I've been at a number of the different occasions where we've been advocating, and you and your team do a great job. So I know that the list that you put up, apart from the compliments, are complex and would be, you know, something that we would have to continue to monitor and advocate for. Just want to ask through you, Chair, if you get a sense of the difference between how much we have to advocate for in comparisons to, say, a City of Toronto or a Peel region or a York region. Do you find that it's much more onerous coming from us in comparisons to maybe counterparts? And maybe what are the causes of that?
I don't know if this answers your question directly, but I would say that we have made targeted efforts to build relationships where they weren't as strong before in order to make that process, I'll say, easier. So we, as I said before, we had a focus of 30 meetings, 22 delegations. The whole point is to put Durham on the map, make sure that everyone knows what's happening here, what are our priorities of our council, how do we fit into that bigger picture so that when they are planning funding programs, for example, they're thinking, oh, I just heard about this through Durham Region. There's someone we should keep in mind. So I don't know if that answers your question directly, but we have taken a targeted approach to make sure we're building those relationships to ease that path moving forward.
Yeah, through you, Chair. No, that's a great answer because I think it leads to, some of the work that we've been doing in Oshawa under the leadership of Mayor Carter, Councillor Chapman and I, and Councillor Kerr and Councillor Neal and Councillor Nicholson and others, that we do our best to try to be present. And I think that presence goes a long way. But I think the question would be then if we satisfy that aspect of presence, which I know that you do. The chair does. We all around the table typically do our best to get out in front of decision makers. That list that you put up there is dependent on funding, a lot of it. Would you not say, because I either have the fortune or the misfortune of being, having been here for a while, and I remember the days of the discussions of the gas tax funding, and a lot of the work that we've done nationally has actually been activated through these chambers. And that was one initiative. So when we talk about seeking a more stable or predictable funding, wouldn't that be a solution for a lot of the items that are on the list? Something that's a lot fairer and predictable, and that funding would then come and not have us sort of beg and plea with other levels of government with applications, which, unless your other municipalities that are unnamed, essentially get approved or denied.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm hearing from multiple members of council here. We do often, when we're advocating for funding programs, say that it should be allocation based instead of application based, simply because of the time and effort that it goes into it. So if we have a council priority and a council dedicated need, then that should relate into funding. There should be some sort of mathematical formula. So I think this goes back to the ideas around the prosperity and economic review. And I think probably what I'm hearing today is that we need to put a bigger focus on that and bring that forward as a major advocacy item for 2026.
I appreciate that. And through you, Chair, I think to Mayor Carter's point, something that I feel fundamentally, there can't be a one-size-fits-all, because I just have to challenge anyone that thinks that things are fair in politics or when it comes to funding, because we just have to look at our neighbors. Some of them get, transit hubs or stations built for them without having to do the kind of tricks that we have to do in order to activate our stuff. And that's a creative method to say that, unless we get the same funding envelopes support, then we're going to be in a position where we have to change that policy over and over until we meet that requirement. So I guess the question is, can we tailor something specific to Durham Region and present it? Because I know many of us have been talking for the past almost decade about HST, funding being allocated directly to municipalities, and other mechanisms where, I don't know, maybe some of the sin taxes can be provided to us, because look at healthcare and the impacts.
Yeah.
That's not happening as a result of anything aside from the fact that there are realities that play into matters. So just through you, Chair, could we do something that's tailored and make it maybe a made in Oshawa or a made in region of Durham solution that then they can use as a blueprint? Because that's how the gas tax or the that sort of conversation evolved through offices like Paul Martin's and in this chamber.
I think absolutely happy to take that as direction, aligns with some of the other comments. The only thing I'll just caveat is that I will have to meet with the Commissioner of Finance to find out sort of what that looks like. So I can't commit to what that would say now, but certainly I can take that as direction to move forward.
Okay, so and the last thing is, and this is not something I don't believe is government relations related specifically, but it does affect the narrative, and that a lot of times when we speak to ministers or decision makers at either provincial or federal levels, they say, we provided the funding to the region. Your municipality is supposed to get that funding from the region. Oftentimes, that is what we're told. So just so that we understand through you, Chair, that the narrative that's being formed at the provincial and federal levels, and in fairness, it doesn't matter what the party stripe is, that we allocate to the region and the region allocates to the municipalities in many cases. And we saw that with 1635, 45, whatever it is, 35, and we've seen that with other envelopes of money. What's the response to a municipality then? Because you do government relations, not just upper levels, but to lower tiers, when we say we're not getting our fair share of the pie from the region.
I think I would rely on the Commissioner of Finance to comment on that. From what I understand, when the money is allocated to the region of Durham, it's for a service
project.
that's provided at the regional level, right? So transit, for example, yes, that makes sense. That would come, transit money would come into the region, and it's under the direction of this council to spend that. If there's money that then we're supposed to allocate forward, I only expect that we do, but maybe I'll ask the Commissioner of Finance if she wants to comment on that.
So through the chair, so Allison is bang on. All the funding we receive through subsidies or through grants are either for specific regional projects or services that we're providing through services to managers for our health and social services areas. Programs like I still call it the federal gas tax, but the Canada Community Building Fund, as it's more recently known. That funding flows from the feds into the province. AMO is the responsible for the distribution across the province of Ontario, and that money is split 50-50, like the Durham allocation, not the regions, but the Durham allocation of that money is split 50-50, with 50% flowing directly from the province to the local municipalities and 50% flowing to the region. So there's no funding that I'm aware of that we receive from senior levels of government where there's responsibility to distribute the funds to the local municipalities for any local programs.
I'm going to have our CAO respond as well.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that when we do receive funding for specific initiatives from the province or the federal government, we do have to sign very complicated funding agreements that's very clear on what that funding is to be used for, and then report back at the end of the project that it has been used as intended. So as Nicole said, I'm also not aware of any of that funding that has said it's to be distributed between the municipalities, and had it been, we would absolutely have done that.
Well, listen, I'm going to continue to advocate, and I know that our team will, and that you will as well with your team director. So through you, Chair, count on our support, because I think that we've got a lot of work to do to continue to be not just present, but top of mind with decision makers provincially and across the country. So appreciate the opportunity to be able to ask questions. Thank you.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of ideas here. Just Mayor Carter brought up the idea of sustainability, I think was a 2025 priority, and it's listed again as a 2026 priority. So financial sustainability, and I can't help but think, you know, in previous conversations with finance here, but together, the lower tiers and the upper tiers are municipal government. But when we advocate, I mean, as the region of Durham, we are advocating primarily for our silo, not for the other silos. And I can't speak for other municipalities, but I know in terms of where Scugog is and in terms of financial sustainability, in terms of our infrastructure deficit, I mean, we're in serious trouble in terms of a long-term plan with $1 billion of infrastructure deficit and 10,000 households to pay for that. Now, I know that's not a problem for everybody around the table.
It's every community, it's a problem.
So everybody has the same
Same
problem?
problem.
Okay, because to me, it feels like it's a me, not an issue. But when I look at, sorry, thank you, Rhonda. But when I look at, you know, our advocacy and what our top priorities are, I can't help but think of the nuclear file, and in terms of the jobs that generates and the quality of those jobs that generates. And the bigger engine that we build in the region of Durham, the more heat that will be thrown off of that engine to do the other things that we're looking at in terms of the mental health supports and the other things. Without those dollars from those really good jobs, we don't have money here to do those projects. So I'm not sure in terms of advocacy, are we looking at, job growth as part of these meetings with federal ministers, et cetera? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, so I heard you make 2 points. One is the coordination with the local municipalities, and happy to bring the message that we're hearing at council today forward to create some joint advocacy, if that's your direction, Councilor McDougall. And then 2, yes, job growth is, growth in general is something that I think Durham Region is experiencing, and something like the investments in Darlington, for example, in the nuclear sector, Pickering being refurbished, those are going to bring significant jobs. That is what we do talk to when Elaine and I were in Ottawa, did bring up basically the benefits of that growth and how we're very welcoming to that growth in our community, but also then what we need to support that growth as well. So yes, those are parts of those conversations moving and have been and will be continuing to moving forward.
Yes, no, I can appreciate the amount of growth that we've had. It's just, growth without those well-paying jobs means that we're going to need more of these resources, more of these supports. Really, to me, it seems like the jobs are the key, and well-paying jobs are the key in order for us to dig our way out of this. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about the auto sector. It was a hot topic yesterday at the House of Commons. Everyone was in on it. Where's the region in regards to that? Of course, I'm talking about the 700 jobs and the spin-off jobs as well. In the city of Oshawa, the third plant, or the third shift being discontinued.
I'll share a couple of
That's
actions.
my question.
Sorry, Councillor Neal.
That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just share a couple of actions related to that. It is a relatively new issue. We haven't had meetings with the province related or the feds related to the GM closures. However, Chair Henry has reached out to the new president of GM Canada, and they are arranging a meeting. We work closely with our colleagues in economic development to provide supports within the community. We do have employment services we're offering to the people affected by the GM layoffs, and we will be advocating as soon as we have a better picture of what those needs are for those employees moving forward.
Councillor Neal.
Yeah, oh, that's good. I guess all the other regions were, including our voice at the federal government was speaking on it. But I'm just, I guess, asking that if there's something concrete that can come through the region in regards to that, it'd be appreciated, I think, by a lot of people, especially the people that were laid off, as well as the number of businesses that are going to be affected. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor Carter, some clarification. I know that you have been involved with
Yes.
this, so.
So just for information, I met with the Premier last week, Minister Joly and Minister Hadou, when I was away. We've also been working with Unifor and General Motors. Those conversations have gone on. Matter of fact, over the last month, but very much last week, there was a lot of conversations that went on. We are working in regards to a strategic plan moving forward. The Premier, I spoke to him on Thursday night in regards to my conversations with Minister Joly in regards to some of the ideas and concepts. We've been advocating, just for the group's knowledge here, Minister Joly is asking for the money to be returned from General Motors back to the federal government. We've been advocating that we don't want the money back. We want it invested back into the plants. We reminded Minister Joly that $238 million has just been spent by GM to get ready for the next generation Silverado 2027 HDs, and that is going on as we speak. I have meetings coming up with Minister Joly, with the Prime Minister, and with the Premier in regards to this issue. We are continuing to work. You and I were part of the 2018 initiative, and that's the same strategy we're taking this time, is the federal, provincial ministers on all levels, the union and General Motors to be part of those conversations. So there's not a day that's gone by that I haven't had conversations with all parties on a regular basis. So that's information for everyone. So just to let you know, okay? I hope that's helpful.
It is very helpful,
Okay.
thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Just to follow up on something that Councillor McDougall said, it's about financial affordability for both the region and the municipalities, but it's also about financial affordability for our residents. And Friday I had, often when I'm here every day, often residents come in and they're quite angry and about the property tax increase, and I'll come downstairs and meet with them in the lobby. And Friday I had the opportunity to meet with somebody from the town of Whitby, this would be a resident of any community who was, one, didn't understand our budget, so I explained to him about the budget, but talked to me about, with the loss of his wife and how affordability to stay in their home is a challenge. And I think that's becoming a bigger problem too across the country, that a senior cannot live on OAS and their Canada pension. It just doesn't work. And if you're a single senior, it really doesn't work. So as we go forward, we need to advocate for our residents as well. A great example of that and the work that the team has done was the $100 million, almost $100 million that we got from the feds in January, which is money that we will not have to put on the tax base. So I have often sat here and said we're not being heard. I feel in January we are starting to be heard. $100 million from the feds and the announcement on the GO train, and the work that went in by this team and our CAO and our team in finance, because we would never be able to do the GO train East without them, was pretty amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Members of council, we'll move on. There are no delegations. We'll move on to correspondence. Could 6.1 is to refer to the motion that is coming forward. Could I just have that moved, please? Moved by Councillor Miriam Pietri, seconded by Councillor Cook. On 6.1, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that carries. On item number 6.2, it's correspondence from James Blair. It's to be, recommendation is referred to consideration of the report 2026 Cow 8. Moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Councillor Gerard. On the referral, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. On 6.3, it's correspondence from Linda Gasser, a Whitby resident. The recommendation is to refer to consideration report 26 Cow 8. Moved by Councillor Cook, seconded by Mayor Barton. On the recommendation, all those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. We'll move on to reports. Item 7.1, located on page 30. If I could get the recommendation moved. Moved by Councillor Miriam Pietri, seconded by Councillor Pettengill. The recommendation is now on the floor. Questions? Mayor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I may have fewer questions than comments with your indulgence on this. Just to members of council, in 2016, the Darlington refurbishment was announced. Around 2017, we were looking at ECDEV and what ECDEV was doing at Durham region. There was no mention of nuclear whatsoever. And even then, we knew that that was a $13 billion project going in on our backyard. Now, we know that ECDEV has certainly picked up the ball, run with it, understood how important it was. But from a regional perspective, it was not on the radar. So we see in front of us an updated strategy on the nuclear file. Caitlin, thank you for the work that you're doing in this. But a suggestion of how far Durham region has come in 10 years' time. And I would suggest you go down a flight of fancy for a moment. Had the refurbishment of Darlington not moved forward, the small modular reactors would not be built. Pickering would be entering its phase of decommissioning. Refurbishment at Bruce would not be going on, nor the plans for new build at Bruce and Wesleyville. So the nuclear industry in Canada would likely be dead. As you read this report, the work that is going on in Durham Region, we are the powerhouse of nuclear right now. 80,000 jobs across the country. Pickering, something in the area of 30 billion. Clarington, or Darlington, I should say, just shy of 13 billion. Can't give you a price tag on the SMRs yet. Darlington alone, not looking at Pickering, there is an estimated $100 billion uplift to the Canadian economy by virtue of these projects. And again, as you're looking at the strategy, the number of foreign nations that are coming through Durham Region to see what we are doing and how we're doing things, and the number of MOUs that are being signed supporting the university, as an example. The supply chain have really been significant. My good colleague was a little worried with all of the tabs that I had on this. Caitlin, thank you. We had a discussion, a lot of questions being answered. There is a lot of work to be done on the file yet. There is a lot of local work to be done on the file yet, but understand that Durham Region is very much in the global focus, both for the SMR builds, first of a kind, first on grid. Again, a significant number of MOUs, and if you're paying attention last week, the refurbishment coming in on time, on budget, was a massive success. This does not happen in the nuclear industry. It is so odd globally for a nuclear project. Well, it wasn't on time, on budget. It was under budget, and it was in advance of the timelines. Huge success. And those lessons learned are going to be used at Bruce. They're going to be used at Pickering as well. The world is paying attention to Durham Region right now today. So, Caitlin, I'll shut up momentarily, but for the work that you are doing with Pickering and Clarington, the work that we are doing jointly, I thank you for that. I look forward to bringing that together more closely, sometime perhaps some more alignment or more work, but huge project, huge file. And who had known in 2016 that we'd be looking at this massive opportunity when it looked as if we were possibly heading into the sunset. So, Mr. Chair, thank you. I didn't think I asked a single question there, but for your indulgence, I thank you.
So, Mayor Foster, on behalf of council, you need to be thanked, and Mayor Ash and Mayor Ryan, you were champions of nuclear when nuclear wasn't popular, and your work as the chair of CANAC has taken you around the world advocating for host community agreements. And while you're there, you have represented Durham Region very well. And I want you to know that on behalf of myself, this council, and the people of Durham Region, if it wasn't for the work that you and Mayor Ash and Mayor Ryan had done, I do not believe Durham would be as successful as they are in the nuclear world. And you need to be commended for all the work that keeps you away from home on top of your job as mayor. So well done. Councillor Wu.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Henry, and good morning. And in fact, in some ways, you've just taken what I was going to say. I do work closely with Mayor Foster, and the amount of work that he does, and again, off the side of his desk, it just, the promotion of the nuclear industry as he travels, and again, the focus as he's traveling, the promotion of nuclear industry, certainly Durham Region as a powerhouse, Clarington, I've often said OPG and in both Darlington and Pickering, I often say, you light up my life. But yeah, no, you don't want to hear me sing. But no, with the 4 strategic goals that are listed in this report, I can honestly say the Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Communities, which Mayor Foster chair, in that touches every one of those. And when the Canadian Nuclear Association opens in April, the first day is, if you want to call it a meeting, a caucus meeting of those that are within the Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Communities. Now, within there, and again, it provides good, high-paying jobs for our communities within Durham Region, the spin-offs. I think the dollar figure is astronomical. Just in the refurbishment that's going on at Pickering, what we have with the SMRs, isotopes that's discussing here. And I don't want to leave out Wesleyville, which is just to the east of us, and what it does to our community. But we have a piece of land in Clarington. Well, we have 2 pieces of land. One that was supposed to be the head office for OPG, but the other one, that Durham Region. How is it going with the promotion of the one that Durham Region? Because I think it's 20 acres and just situated perfectly for somebody to come, and we want the supply chain to come.
So, it's outside of the scope of the conversation, but it is a very good question. So I'm going to have our CAO respond or have her direct staff.
I can tell you that we have had a real estate company engaged to help us with that. I'm not sure if Simon is online right now, but given the state of the real estate market in the last year or so, we have not yet had any interest in the property, but we continue to market it aggressively. Simon, are you online? Is there anything you'd like to add?
No,
He's not.
He is in a meeting upstairs.
Oh, so he is, I knew that, sorry. So I'm happy to just double check, Councillor, and get back to you. So it is still in our work plan, we still aggressively push it, but it's a challenge right now in the current environment.
Okay. Well, really appreciate that. And again, I'll go back and the time away that the mayor spends in Europe or in the States or other places around the world, and speaking about nuclear, it is good for the industry, certainly good for Durham Region and our municipalities. And, despite what some rumors that are out there, it's all about nuclear, not how we're going to be dealing about our waste. And when I say waste, garbage, like incineration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brenner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that not only is this report, the report is excellent. That's probably the best way to describe it. Both myself and Councillor Cook were really pleased to host with OPG in the city of Pickering an information session on the strategy and on the benefits of nuclear in our communities and what it does. And I want to thank the regional staff. They did attend. And I want to encourage regional staff to continue the important role of not just communicating to us here and not just communicating to the industry out there, but bringing in the community. We found that there were some naysayers that came to that meeting, but they walked away with a better understanding of the benefits and that the benefits outweighed the negatives. So I want to encourage staff to continue to have that very vital role to not just educating us, but educating the community as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So that exhausts the speakers list. So on the report, I will call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. We'll move on to 7.2, authorization to enter into an environmental assessment funding agreement with Northeast Pickering. The recommendation is on page 64. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Brenner, seconded by Councillor Cook. The item is now on the floor. Councillor Dies.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry that I'm unable to support this. I haven't supported it all along. This goes way, way back for me with a lot of information, many years working with the Green Belt Association, working with all different kinds of environmental groups who are very, very firm on their position that building on the headwaters of the Crothers will create downstream flooding. And the question always popped up in my mind as to how. Who makes that decision about which home gets flooded? So I have a question related to that, in that the agreement will be on the servicing. If the servicing is going through the green belt, how much dead pipe would that be? And I know they're paying for it up front. So how much dead pipe would that be where there's no other type of housing using that pipe? And when that has to be replaced, whose responsibility is that?
So I'll go to the commissioner.
Yeah, through the chair, I'll start by clarifying this has nothing to do with putting actual infrastructure. This is just planning until we know, until we go through the process. Like, many of the questions won't have answers, but I will refer to Nathaniel Andre to elaborate, please.
Yeah, through the chair, you're just speaking raw numbers and distance-wise, to the south, you're probably kilometer and a half from the existing urban boundary at that point in time. To the east, if you were connecting, which ultimately that area, in a built-out stage would connect eastward as well. Probably about the same, thereabouts anyways, as far as the lands that it's got to make it through. So to Commissioner Jagannathan's point, the purpose of the principles that are put forward today are about the basis of an agreement that would allow the environmental assessment to move forward, which, just for a bit of context, the environmental assessment looks at various aspects of the project, but it, largely focused around water and wastewater for the purpose of the conversation here. And essentially what you're doing is you're looking for, properly placed and appropriate locations for things like sanitary sewage pumping stations, water storage facilities, trunk sewers, feeder mains, and so on. So you're essentially laying the groundwork for where future construction would be taking place, but going through the consultation process, dealing with stakeholders, dealing with rights holders, sort of flushing out those issues before you move forward blindly through any sort of detailed design stage.
Thank you. I understand that, and I understand we've had that conversation before about what type of infrastructure they've promised to put in, best technology ever, blah, blah, blah. It's still an issue, and I know it's only part of the development now of that area, and there's more that can be developed. So how many landowners are there, and how many will be participating in this first piece of this development?
Through the chair, the best answer I would provide is I know of at least three that would be part of it. 3 developers that own lands in that particular area. It's not to say that there couldn't be more. There's still lots that us as a group are learning about the landowner group that's going to be part of that process. My best guess at the moment is in around 3.
So we were told before in previous delegations that there were over 100 landowners on the headwaters. Is that correct?
So when we're speaking about landowners within Northeast Pickering overall and not landowners within...
But they were part of this group, apparently. All were a part of this group.
So as far as the Northeast Pickering landowners group goes, we're not necessarily talking about any private ownerships or lands that might otherwise be leased in that area. We're specifically dealing with the landowners that are essentially forming the development community within that group, and this is where I'm just talking about the few entities that exist within that group.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Jubb.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, just some additional points of clarification. I just want to clarify with our planning or community staff, part of Envision Durham, the staff recommendation did not include this lands, but council chose these lands. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as you're moving forward, Mayor Jubb, Envision Durham, the staff recommendation related to the land needs assessment, which was an earlier phase of the project, identified what was previously called land use scenario number 4. You may be familiar with that. And it was a smaller amount of hectares of land recommended for community area uses. The council in 2022 identified what was called scenario 2A, which was a much larger land need requirement. And so at the time when staff were recommending scenario 4, we hadn't allocated the growth to specific municipalities or specific areas, but it was a smaller amount to be allocated. So it would have had to be balanced across all of the Lakeshore municipalities potentially, or different permutations of that, as well as considering growth for the northern municipalities within the confines of the Greenbelt Plan.
Okay, that helps. Thank you so much. And a follow-up to that. Is our 2031 growth targets, is this property in question needed to meet those targets, or is this in addition?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the housing targets are to 2031 that were put by the province, and the 2031 urban boundary that was in the official plan for the region and the official plans of the local municipalities before Envision Durham is where we would be focusing that growth. And there is sufficient ability for housing units within the 2031 urban boundary to accommodate the housing targets.
Okay, so that is a little bit concerning. If we go down this path, I know it's only the EA and there's a lot more to do with this with our DC study and whatnot, but would this actually deprioritize the other areas that are set for growth in our DC study if we continue to go down this path?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the November council meeting had 2 elements related to this area of geography. So one is our work that the finance department's leading on the development charge study options and considering how we would do a development charge study that would include Northeast Pickering, include all of the growth areas across the region, and perhaps Commissioner Pincombe can add to that if she would wish. But then the other element was the EA request that came to us that we were intended to get back to you now. So we're trying to balance, orderly and sequential growth all across the region's municipalities and ensure that the municipalities can grow both incrementally, but also to balance intensification and greenfield growth. So this area is a large, it's 40% of the area that was brought in Envision Durham. So it will take resources. And I think we outlined that in our November committee or council presentation that we did for you. But the direction is to be focusing the efforts on the background work to eventually consider how this would be serviced. Hopefully that helps.
Well, okay, it does for sure. And there's a lot of information here, so I'm just trying to get caught up over the last few years. Regarding the farming community, and we see lots of correspondence on the agenda today with some pretty grave concerns. It looks like this is basically generally all on our prime farmland, which is going away at alarming rates. So can I get comment just to confirm that this area is basically all prime farmland, agricultural land?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So just to take a step back in terms of through our Envision Durham process, we did consult broadly with our agricultural community, not only through DAC, our Agricultural Advisory Committee, but also with the Federation. The land is prime agricultural land. It was previously referred to as White Belt, so that would have been land outside the former urban boundary, but outside the Greenbelt as well. There was a presentation made to DAC in December from the City of Pickering, giving them a really comprehensive update on the Northeast Pickering Secondary Plan. And there were some questions and comments raised, but no specific motion or recommendation that would have come forward to you at Council related to their concern. DAC's concerns are about loss of farmland as a whole, but haven't made a specific resolution related to this area in question, just the idea that they want to preserve farmland moving forward.
Okay, and finally, this is staff's recommendation to go forward with this EA. So basically staff are recommending, yes, let's go forward with this plan, which does put us down a path. to using our prime agricultural land when I'm hearing that we can actually meet our targets without using this prime land? Can I just get comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So staff were directed to work with the landowners group to bring forward the agreement back in November, and that's what the principles in front of you are today. When I talk about housing targets, it is in more in the immediate term. The Northeast Pickering lands were identified to accommodate growth to 2051 and beyond, right? So they are needed. It's just in the more immediate term, there is a focus on our other greenfield areas that were already in our plan, as well as intensification areas.
Okay, so if this wasn't directed by council, staff would basically, what you're telling me, you wouldn't be recommending this land. We would be focusing on other areas that were previously identified.
Councillor, you're asking staff to introduce themselves into a political conversation.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I think I got my answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair Henry. Apologies for the voice. Apparently I was hanging out with Mayor Carter and we sound the same. So I sound a little more aggressive than intended. I live in Pickering. Let's just state that obviously, since I'm a regional councillor for Pickering. I do appreciate Councillor Dye's comments on preserving the farmland and the concern with the flooding from the headwaters. This is why in the due course of working with the landowners group in Pickering, hosting public meetings, working with our community organizations, when this was presented to Pickering as well, to conduct a fulsome EA, which I'm still hopeful that the intention of this is to be a very comprehensive environmental assessment, not just something to satisfy on paper, but one that truly looks at the unique properties of this parcel of land and what the intended uses are. I also sit on Works, so this question may go back to Director Goodchild, so don't go away. I don't think we can ignore looking at developing an environmental assessment of this property if we intend to build, whether that's 2031 to 2051, without fully understanding infrastructure. We already have an infrastructure issue. We're already spending how many billions, Commissioner, on redoing our water facilities, our wastewater management? We have plans already underway across the region. So when a landowner group presented the opportunity at no cost to the region to conduct an EA, at no cost to the taxpayer, I'm at least curious enough to see what that end result would be and what that looks like. And it is my understanding from this agreement, and this is where you may need to correct me, Director Goodchild, that my understanding is this does not tie us in any way to proceeding with any further action. This is merely an instigation of an environmental assessment. Is that correct? Am I interpreting this correctly?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll just have Commissioner Jagannathan provide that response. Thanks.
So you're right, and that's the reason both the report and the principles of the agreement are clearly outlining the risks in terms of schedule. Like there's no, really the DC bylaw update, like as mentioned in the report and previously, these lands are not even currently in our DC bylaw.
Okay.
So like, the developers are taking a schedule risk, and we needed to make sure that's documented in the agreement. Therefore, this doesn't become, this doesn't encumber us like in the DC bylaw update and so on.
In the future. Okay, thank you for that clarity. That was my understanding. Also, I also view this opportunity for an EA that it might highlight areas within this parcel of land that should be preserved or not developed. We don't know what we don't know other than it is agricultural land and the extent of flooding impact. So thank you for bringing that answer. I appreciate that. And that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brenner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Through you to staff, just picking up on some of the comments and questions from Councillor Cook. for this to pass today, how much money are we saving for the people of Durham region by having an agreement with the property owners in Northeast Pickering versus the region of Durham paying for a wholesome EA?
Commissioner?
Through the chair, the principles of the agreement would require that the region doesn't pay anything. The way it's crafted, all staff time and costs, in terms of how much an EA might cost, we can just put an order of magnitude, $3 to $5 million, it's their consultants, any consultants that would represent the regional staff time, cost, and that's the basis. We needed to make sure it doesn't deprioritize other servicing studies and EAs that we need to do in order to serve the lands, outside these lands.
Thank you. And I think that's a very important point for members to bear in mind, that whether or not we agree or disagree in terms of the future of Northeast Pickering, the need for an environmental assessment is probably critical, as Councillor Cook has pointed out, because that environmental assessment can either identify why there's problems with Northeast Pickering and perhaps cannot go ahead in the fashion in which it was intended, or perhaps it would be the opposite. But without the EA, we're never going to know. And I think it's critical that we've gone through a budget process, and we've just heard the commissioner say what it would cost. I think it was $2 to $3 million. It's a lot of money for the regional taxpayer. This is an opportunity, and it doesn't give the control to the landowner, and that's also important. The landowners will not control this process. It's guided by the ministry guidelines, and it's guided by the region of Durham. This isn't a pay for say for the landowners. It's a pay because they've brought it forward, and it's only rightfully fair they pay, not the taxpayers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mayor Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm reading from the same notes as Councillor Brenner just articulated very clearly. This is about an opportunity to save the taxpayers' money. This land has been designated for review for over 20 years, was in the White Belt. And I think it's prudent for us to begin the process of planning through the environmental lens and doing it in a fiscal responsible way by having the cost of this $2 to $3 million expenditure paid for by the landowners rather than the taxpayers. I completely understand my friend Councillor Guy's position. It's been longstanding. But the region made a decision. The government of Ontario approved our official plan, and we're working towards accessing properties for development in a prudent, environmentally sensitive, and fiscally responsible way. So I completely support this and would ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, thank you. Record a vote at the appropriate time. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councillor Pickles.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm going to echo the comments of my colleagues that spoke before. This is something that's been looked at for many, many years by many of us. It was approved by council. It was approved by the province. And I think we ought not to go back and revisit some matters that some members of council may not be happy with the decision. But, this work needs to be done in advance of the project or any development. The landowners have stepped forward to carry the costs that we would otherwise be carrying. So I'm supportive of it. The only suggestion I'll make, and Mr. Chair, I won't put it in the form of a question, is that some of the correspondents spoke to a number of organizations or perhaps even individuals. that ought to be contacted or provided notice through the environmental assessment process. And I'll just leave that with staff to raise that with those who are going to be undertaking the environmental assessment to ensure we reach out to all the parties and the public that may be interested in commenting on this. And I will be supporting the report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Neal.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. And I am in agreement with what Councillor Dies has stated, because I didn't vote for this back, I think it was November 25th on a recorded vote. So I'll be doing the same today. And the reason I'm stating that is during the budget, we were told that we would be, that the region was stressed in regards to supplying services, especially new services. So I know we're talking about environmental assessment, but as Mayor Judd mentioned, once you start going down that path, then it's going to be the region to pick up that, those costs in the end. And in regards to the Envision Durham, our planning department did not, and I'll again say it, did not okay any expansion in regards to these lands. So sometimes we want to listen to planning staff, sometimes we don't want to listen to planning staff, and that's up to any councillor that wants to be involved in this region. But having said that, I was the alternate representative on the Durham Agricultural Committee, and I heard loud and clear that they weren't impressed with the amount of good farmland disappearing. So having said that, and having heard the comments, like I said, from Mayor to Councillor Dies, I'll ask for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Recorded vote has already been called.
Thank you.
Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. Very succinctly, I don't think as a council we can move forward on any matter without facts. Until we have those, we can't make a well-reasoned decision. Secondly, this land group, or one of the developers in particular, has been ready to go on this site for 15 plus years. And based on that, they've come forward with this plan to advance the costs on this themselves and absolve the taxpayer of that cost. I'm looking forward to the vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, that exhausts the speakers list. The recorded vote was called by Mayor Ash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the recommendations is starting now. Looking for Councillor Yamada online. Second call, Councillor Yamada. Last call, Councillor Yamada online.
That carries. Members of council will move on to 7.3, which is the government relations report. It's located on page 74 of your agenda. Moved by Mayor Foster, seconded by Councillor Miriam Pietri. The item is now on the floor. The recommendation is for this report is to be received for information. Seeing no hands, Mr. Clerk, nothing online, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. There's only a couple items left. Power through them, or does council need a break? Oh. Okay, in that case, we'll move on to motions. First motion is 8.1, motion regarding legislative changes, municipal employees retirement system. It's in Bill 68. It's located on page 90 of your agenda. And there is a recommendation. This item was moved by Councillor Mulcahy and seconded by Councillor Crawford. Councillor, you're prepared to go forward with this? Yes. Okay. Councillor Crawford, you're prepared. I know you're online because you're not feeling well. You're prepared to second it? I can just see it. Thumbs up. Perfect, okay. The item is now on the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I just, this is something that has, AMO has flagged and MEPCO, and I think it's really important to get everyone's ears on this because when it was presented at AMO, I think the whole room glossed over. And we did the same thing in Whitby Council. I put it on the floor, and it's a tricky one because it's complex. And this is one of those ones where after the fact, years down the road, we'll be going, well, what happened? Why is this happening? So what's happening is there's looking at changes for the structure for OMERS. This affects everybody here that's going to collect an OMERS pension and pays into it. This affects our municipalities and the costs that they will bear on these changes. So I think it's more important than we've been hearing about, and I hope that everybody takes this back to their local councils and passes resolutions that are similar to this. Ask your staff, ask AMO, and get information, because I'm going to go over the basics of it here, but the reality of it is it is complex. The OMERS Sponsors Corporation would be dissolved and replaced by a Sponsors Council. The changes weaken the role of municipal employers who represent taxpayers in overseeing the pension plan, potentially leading to higher costs. The Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing would receive significant authority to set rules and regulations for the Sponsors Council, politicizing it. The model moves away from shared long-term stewardship towards interest-based bargaining, and the reforms aim to improve transparency and address concerns that the previous governance structure was too inward-looking, as outlined in the 2025 OMERS Governance Review. This is important. Please listen and please act on this one, because this is another one where we'll be identifying it 2 years down the road as a problem. And it's something that I'm putting on the floor in hopes that you'll support and hopefully act on it in your own councils. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Crawford, did you wish to speak on this item? As the seconder?
I don't have any voice, so I won't say anything. And I agree with everything she said.
So Councillor Crawford, I really couldn't understand you, but I understand what the thumbs up means. So, and just for reference sake, I don't know where the members of council that have colds have been, but, and I really don't want to know. I just don't want you around me, okay? Thank you. Okay. So the item's on the floor. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none. Mayor Roy, can you come and take the chair, please?
All right, we're on. All right. And moving on to the next notice of motion. And Chair Henry, are you prepared to move forward with it?
Yes, I am.
And seconder?
Is Mayor Foster.
Mayor Foster. Chair Henry.
Thank you. It is a fairly long motion, so I won't read it into the record. It's online. But I will read the 4 items. That the board and DRPS provide regular updates to Durham Region Council on the completion of all publicly reported recommendations arising from the IOCPC report as publicly reported and approved by the Inspector General. The regional staff submit a Freedom of Information request to the Inspectorate of Policing seeking an unredacted copy of the report. The regional staff, upon receipt of an unredacted copy of the report, be directed to take all appropriate measures with respect to any DRPS employee or former employee who are found in the report to have committed wrongdoing. Specifically, such individuals shall be removed from any standing invitation to notable regional events and shall not be honored or commemorated in any of the regional communication platform. And that Durham Regional Council requests the board to take all appropriate steps available to recover and remove ceremonial honors and titles from those found in the report to have committed wrongdoing, and to take steps to ensure that they shall not be honored or commemorated on any of the DRPS communications platforms. I'd wish to speak to this.
Please go forward.
The purpose of this, and first of all, to legal, Kelly McDermott, and to Jason Hunt, to get to this motion, they have helped me 4 or 5 times because my first motion was not as kind as this. And so, Kelly, thank you. The importance here is that Durham Regional Police is almost entirely funded by this regional council. And we have heard from the board that we will not hear any information from the board, and that it is the responsibility of the originator of the report to release that. The purpose of this motion is that a couple things. One is the public doesn't distinguish between Durham Regional Police and Durham Region Council. They think that they come under the body of this unit here, this council. And yet we are receiving the results from the public related to this report. I'm sure all members of council have heard something. That it's important to understand is the funding agent, we are entitled, or I believe, we are entitled to know what was within that report and what actions are being taken. And they talk about 33 recommendations, but I have no idea what they are. The other part too is when you look at this, as we submit a Freedom of Information request on behalf of the region, that staff will redact the names within the report. That is in number 3, be directed to take appropriate measures with respect to any DRPS employees. So when the information that comes back to us, I would expect that our clerks would do the appropriate thing and take the name that connects anybody to the report would be removed. But what's really, really challenging for me is the reputational damage that has been done to the service. That those who have served and retired, those who currently serve, and those who will be serving in the future, this hangs over them, and it's disappointing. Reputation, this is about returning a reputation back to the organization, and you can only do that when it is in the public realm. As an organization that funds policing, we just give them the money through the budget process. This year, 3.5% on top of last year's budget. We have no say in how that money was spent, or how much of that money was used to defend the investigation of the OCPC. It was never reported back to council how that money was spent, and that money was in the base budgets of the past. And that money still stays in with the base budget going forward. So what was the initial cost to defend this? I would curiously like to know what the cost the investigators occurred over the years that this went on, so the public has a right to know how much this investigation costs. You know, I'm sure there's members of council that have comments, but this is really about returning the reputation to the service and to this council. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Chair Henry. As a seconder, Mayor Foster. Oops. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in terms of, returning reputation and some comments that Chair Henry made is the members of the public are not distinguishing, I don't believe, between the current board and between the current leadership. I don't believe that members of the public have an understanding as to how long it took for this report to come out, and we are all a little bit confused as to the length and the lack of visibility into the findings of that report. So the reputational damage, I would hope that were the board able to release this, and there are some discussions around this, goes to the current leadership as well, that this is a new leadership team. a team that's been tasked with making changes, fixing problems, but not instigators of the problem. The same with the board. This is a new board, a board that is tasked with fixing things but not responsible for creating the issues. And again, the public have a lot on their minds, but I'm not convinced that they understand the distinction here. So I think it's important to say that we have confidence in the leadership, both at the board as well as the leadership at DRP. But the ability to get some clarity would be a very good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Foster. Councillor Wu.
Yeah, and thank you, Mayor Roy, and to Chair Henry and to Mayor Foster for bringing this forward. And we've discussed this, and we've also, this council have asked the OCPC, what used to be the OCPC, it was their report. And as a member of the Durham Regional Police Services Board, I can say it is troubling what's in the report, and the reputational damage that's been used a number of times. And I can say this particular board, this particular chief and the command team are trying, well, they have acted on some of the recommendations even before the OCPC report came out. There is more to do, no doubt, and this will be brought up at the next board meeting that is coming up with the request that you do have to reach out, and number two, a Freedom of Information request to the Inspector General of Policing, an unredacted copy. And I can say probably within the report, and we have to be very, very careful because there are names that are mentioned that, and I'm going to use those that did come forward to different members of the service to report an issue. I think it would do reputational damage for people to come forward. And I'm going to maybe use the word whistleblower, because who would want to come forward if their names are going to be exposed? That's the thing that we have to be cautioned. And I think the chair did mention that if anything were to, and I'm going to, Chair Henry, anything that goes out to the public that is redacted. But again, there's a few people that have had the report, but you know, as it starts to get out, somewhere along the lines, it's going to be leaked. Obviously, the media, social media, would love to get their hands on this. And you're right, the public has a right to know. This particular board has done quite a bit to change that, but the public doesn't know. The public doesn't know. We're painted with the same brush. And as we move along, and with this motion here, I think we have to be very careful on how we, let's say, mete out this information so that we don't cause reputational damage within the service and to its civilian and sworn members. I understand this because as I sit here as a regional councillor too, some of the issues that have occurred, which we are trying to fix. And again, the unfortunate part, there's a lot of scrutiny on policing in general. We just only have to look to the west of us, what is happening. And that paints us all. And a couple of days ago, the Inspector General, Ryan Teschner, is looking at all services, looking at our policy and procedures to make sure that those areas within our policy and procedure, there's no loopholes that somebody can pigeonhole themselves in and do discredit to the service. Like I say, there's not much more I can say. I understand this. We'll be speaking about this at our next board meeting. I can honestly say it's an honor to be on the Durham Regional Police Service Board, this board that we have now, with the board and with the chief that we do have and the command team and the sworn and civilian members. I'm very proud of them. And again, unfortunately, this matter over 6 years has tainted that. And again, on top of what is going on elsewhere, and we've got to bring that all together and correct any of those deficiencies.
Counselor,
and the recommendations that we do have.
You're at your 5 minutes.
Yes. Well, like I say, the recommendations, we are working on them, and we have to work and report it to the Inspector General. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
Thank you. So I think I understand the general intent of this, but there's a lot of it I don't agree with. Like getting the police board to report to council on what were the recommendations and what's been accomplished to do them, because a lot of those I'm sure are procedures and policy and things like that. Whether we get a unredacted copy of the report, that's up to them. We've already asked them to release it publicly, and we haven't heard anything back on that. Part 3 is kind of interesting, that we, the regional staff, take appropriate measures with respect to any DRPS employee or former employee. We have no authority over DRPS employees. The Police Act is quite clear in that. If there's something to be done, it's in the operation of the Inspector General or the Chief of Police to do that. And unfortunately, once people retire and are former employees, the Police Act doesn't apply to them for disciplinary problems. So I'm not sure what we do there. Remove them from standing invitation, I don't know. It says wrongdoing. What's a wrongdoing? These are allegations that were investigated and something was come out. There was no hearing in a Police Act. There was no trial. There's been no civil that we know of. So how are we going to identify? Are we going to be the judge to say, okay, this is wrongdoing, so this is what needs to be accomplished? We must also remember on the cost, we're talking about the cost. Yeah, okay, what was the total cost? The police board approved the cost. So did they do wrong? The police board, members of this council and those appointed by the province, were they part of the wrongdoers in approving the cost that was spent during this? That's a pretty broad subject. So that police board now, they shouldn't have done that. So we're not inviting any of those councillors to any of our regional things? Okay. The other one there is I'm really confused about is recover and remove ceremonial honors and titles. I'm not sure what that means, ceremonial. If you're talking medals that police officers get, they're awarded by the Governor General of Canada. They're not awarded by the Durham Regional Police Service. They're not awarded by the region of Durham. They're awarded by the Governor General of Canada. And the only way you can take somebody's medal back is by the Governor General doing that. So I'm not sure how that works. I don't even know what ceremony honors and titles mean. I think the first two parts of this is fine. Like I say, I don't think we're going to get an unredacted copy of the report because we would have heard back already. We've already made our position clear as a council that it should be released publicly by those, by the government that instigated it, by the government that has control of it. But I do agree with point number 1. What were the recommendations that were made that needed to be fixed? And how has the Durham Regional Police Board and the police leadership fixed those? Let us know, because that, I think, will add to the confidence in the police that this was wrong and we fixed this. Maybe they fixed it in 2021 as opposed to when we got a new chief. I don't know. Those are the things. So I certainly can't support this whole thing in its entirety because I think it's a bit of a witch hunt from our point of view, right? And I know that there's a lot of people that would like to see this report. There's a lot of my fellow retirees that would like to see what came out of this. But I think we're opening up a big Pandora's box and saying, we're going to decide what the wrongdoings were because somebody, think about an officer who investigates a crime, finds evidence of a crime, and a judge or jury finds that not guilty. That's a judge and jury that's doing that. Are we going to be taking that on? Because we're going to say, well, we think that's a wrongdoing because in the investigation it says Officer A or whoever should not have done this or would have been better doing this way. And I think the board of 2019 is involved in that as well. They're the ones that approved the cost to carry on and fight this sort of thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. Well, Councillor Chapman, in his experience, has provided some in-depth dissection of the motion. What I would like to say is I agree with the overall intent of this motion, and from maybe a different perspective, in addition to the ones stated. Right now, there is a very large disconnect amongst seemingly many of the residents in my ward, anyway, as to whose responsibility this is. And many blame the City Council in Oshawa for these problems. Many blame the Regional Council for these problems. And the fact is that we have no jurisdiction in this area. So what the intent of this motion is, it will clear that up, hopefully. And these facts need to come out as they are able to. So that's the first point. And the second point is that there's a reputational aspect to this. You know, in my time as a professor in the School of Justice at Durham College, I helped to graduate an incredible number of exceptional officers who are now serving and have served with Durham Regional Police Service. I would not like to see a continuation of their reputation, of their service besmirched. This needs to get cleared up. I want each and every one of them to continue to walk into their responsibilities every day with their head held high and with the thought that they're going to continue to provide their service with the very best of their ability with no cloud hanging over it. We owe it to them to do something, whether it's all of this, but the intent is good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Chapman, did you want to speak again?
Actually, I'd like to make a motion of division, if I can find a seconder.
Councillor Wu? You want each item divided? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah, we need so we have the mover of the motion to divide by Councillor Chapman, second by Councillor Wu. So this is only on the motion to divide. It's not on the motion, the actual motion. So all in favor to divide? And that's carried. So now we're going to move to item 1. It's moved by Regional Chair Henry, second by Mayor Foster. All in favor of item 1? We want a recorded vote? Okay, let's do that. We can, and Mr. Clerk, actually, can we put it up on the screen each time, if that's appropriate? Hang tight. Councillor Wu?
Yeah, we're first putting up number 1, right?
Yep.
And if I could, to the mover and seconder, when you say publicly reportable recommendations, those are the ones that can be, I'm going to say that can be released to the public because there are some recommendations that may not be able to, or you're looking at all 33.
I would expect that whatever came into the clerk, because it'll be a staff submit the Freedom of Information freedom of information, that they would redact it appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are we ready, Mr. Clerk?
I am ready.
All right. And this is item 1. It's up on your screen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recorded vote on Part 1 of the motion is starting now. The text of Part 1 is included for your reference. Just looking for Councillor Wu.
And that is carried. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recorded vote on Part 2 of the motion is starting now. Looking for Councillor Yamada online. Second call for Councillor Yamada. Last call, Councillor Yamada online.
That is also carried. And next?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recorded vote on Part 3 of the motion is starting now.
Councillor Mayor Foster, we've already called the vote. Thank you.
Looking for Mayor Barton and Councillor Yamada. Thank you.
That is carried. And moving to Part 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recorded vote on Part 4 of the motion is starting now. Looking for Councillor Yamada online. Second call, Councillor Yamada. Last call, Councillor Yamada online.
And that is also carried. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mayor Roy. Members of council, there are no confidential items. Mr. Clerk, the last thing of the business of the day would be adjournment. I'm looking for a mover, Councillor Kerr, seconder, Councillor Crook, on adjournment. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Thank you very much, members of council and staff.